Meet Brad Pitt, an actor, producer, philanthropist, and an Oscar winner. How did Brad Pitt manage to become the sex symbol of generations and continue to hold that title even at the age of 55? And how did this clever fellow transition from being a handsome, blue-eyed heartthrob to taking on serious and dramatic roles under the wing of iconic directors? By the way, would you like to know which films he has produced with his prodigious talents? And finally, could you please explain why all his characters are constantly devouring food on the screen? Now that's a question. During the filming of Fight Club, Brad Pitt found himself in a funny and awkward situation that led to unexpected consequences. In one scene where Pitt was supposed to break glass with his hand, something went wrong. Instead of breaking the glass, he unexpectedly hit himself and injured his hand. The filming was paused, and Brad needed medical assistance. However, instead of following the standard procedure for seeking medical help, Pitt decided to apply the cast himself. He took the provided casting material and went to his trailer, where he attempted to set his own hand. However, lacking experience in applying a cast, his wrapping ended up anything but neat and proper. Pitt returned to the set with a poorly wrapped and comically looking cast, eliciting laughter from the film crew and director David Fincher. However, instead of replacing the cast or interrupting filming, Fincher decided to incorporate the situation into the film. Thus, in the final version of Fight Club, it can be noticed that Brad Pitt's character, Tyler Durden, also has a broken hand with a poorly applied cast. This unexpected addition to the character added a comedic touch to the film. Brad Pitt, the shining luminary of Hollywood, stands atop a staggering fortune presently benchmarked at $300 million. Not just a decorated actor and skilled producer, Pitt has harnessed the power of commercial partnerships to add considerable weight to his earnings. This includes a neat paycheck of $4.5 million for being the face of a Heineken campaign, and a $3 million windfall from aligning with Cadillac. He also pocketed approximately $1.8 million for promoting Roots Coffee in Japan. His association with the legendary fragrance brand Chanel brought in a significant $7 million. Pitt's financial portfolio is also heavily bolstered by his vast real estate empire, currently valued above $100 million. This includes the charming Chateau Miraval vineyard sprawled across 400 hectares in the French countryside, which he and Angelina Jolie procured in 2008 for $60 million and still co-own. Pitt's domestic haven is in Los Feliz, a home he acquired in 1994 for a modest $1.7 million. Finding the existing architecture not to his taste, he embarked on a long journey to reshape it into his dream abode. This involved acquiring neighboring properties over the years, expanding his estate, and adding a multitude of structures. Now it's an architectural marvel that can comfortably house numerous guests, with a main house and 4 guest houses. In addition, Pitt's portfolio is studded with a $4 million beach house in Santa Barbara, a $3.5 million mansion in New Orleans, and a splendid villa on the Spanish island of Majorca, priced at $7 million. His taste for luxury doesn't end there, as he owns a coveted collection of vehicles, including a BMW Hydrogen 7, Chevrolet Tahoe, Audi Q7, Lexus LS 460F, Tesla Model S, and a $300,000 Aston Martin Vanquish, amongst others. His love for speed also extends to 2 wheels with the world's most expensive motorcycles, like the $300,000 Costino Serie S20, a $72,500 Ducati Desmosedici, MV Agusta Brutale, Husqvarna Nuda 900R gracing his collection. Flying high, literally, Pitt owns a $3.3 million British Supermarine Spitfire fighter plane from the WW2 era. He also has a $1.6 million helicopter, gifted by his ex-wife, Angelina Jolie. What, in your opinion, was the catalyst for Brad Pitt's meteoric rise to global fame? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Brad Pitt was born on December 18, 1963, in Shawnee, Oklahoma, in the heart of the United States. He grew up in a modest household, the eldest of 3 children, to Jane Etta, a school counselor, and William Alvin Pitt, a truck company owner. Pitt's family relocated to Springfield, Missouri, shortly after his birth, where he spent his formative years. Raised in a tight-knit and supportive family, Pitt developed a deep appreciation for the arts from an early age. His love for storytelling was nurtured by his parents, who encouraged his creative pursuits. This foundation would play a pivotal role in shaping his future endeavors. After completing his primary education, Pitt enrolled at Kickapoo High School in Springfield. Despite being an active participant in extracurricular activities such as debate club and sports, he found his true calling in theater. Pitt's charismatic stage presence and natural talent quickly caught the attention of his peers and teachers, setting him on a trajectory towards a career in acting. Following his graduation from high school in 1982, Pitt went on to attend the University of Missouri, where he pursued a degree in journalism with a focus on advertising. However, his passion for acting persisted, leading him to drop out of college just 2 weeks shy of completing his degree. Driven by an unwavering desire to follow his dreams, Pitt packed his bags and set his sights on the city of dreams, Los Angeles. Brad Pitt is one of those remarkable actors in Hollywood who had no connections or influential paths paved for him. He dropped out of university during his final year and set off for Los Angeles in pursuit of his dream. In his pocket, he had not just $10 like Sylvester Stallone, but a whole $350. Despite that, he embarked on the journey to fame, overcoming numerous challenges. He took up various odd jobs, promoting chicken in local eateries and delivering pizzas or Chinese food. He started with minor roles in different films, where his name didn't even appear in the credits. Gradually, he made his way into television series, where his name occasionally graced the screen for more than 10 seconds. His first feature film was called The Dark Side of the Sun, where he had a remarkable role. However, astonishingly, this film ended up being abandoned and forgotten in the shadows. It took a whole 10 years before it was rediscovered. It was a joint project between Yugoslavia and the United States in the late 80s, when Yugoslavia was going through challenging times. Eventually, the film was completed and released only in 1997. It turned out that a well-known star had appeared in it, making it suitable for some extra earnings. While the film languished in obscurity, Brad found support in various horror projects, where his characters were creatively killed off. But these unconventional roles attracted attention because some of these films, despite deviating from the classic norms, possessed a unique charm and distinct quality. During the early stages of his career, Brad Pitt encountered a unique hurdle. The projects where he landed significant roles often bypassed the big screen and found their way to television instead. Fearing being typecast as a television actor, Brad chose to accept smaller parts in films destined for theatrical release. This decision was a pivotal moment that could have shaped his career in a tragically different direction. In the late 1980s, Brad formed a friendship with Robin Givens, who was going through a divorce with Mike Tyson at the time. Mike claims to have once caught Robin in a car near her residence. Fortunately, Brad's ability to genuinely smile and pretend to be a devoted Mike Tyson fan saved the day. Mike let him go, but he maintains that he never crossed paths with Brad Pitt again. Brad's breakthrough in the film industry came with Thelma Louise. Initially associated with renowned actresses like Goldie Hawn, Meryl Streep, Jodie Foster, and Michelle Pfeiffer, the movie ultimately became a Ridley Scott project that propelled Brad into the world of cinema. The casting journey for the film took some unexpected twists. Originally, the role was intended for William Baldwin, but his career took a different path, and he opted for a more intriguing offer. Robert Downey Jr. briefly stepped in, but Ridley Scott was dissatisfied, feeling that the pairing of Downey and Geena Davis created an imbalance due to their height difference. Consequently, Downey was replaced. Scott then turned his attention to George Clooney, but in a last-minute change of heart, Clooney declined the opportunity. Scott later explained that Clooney exuded an air of white-collar demeanor and would have appeared out of place in a cowboy hat. With time running out, Scott found himself torn between Christian Slater and Brad Pitt, ultimately selecting Pitt, whose persona aligned more harmoniously with the character's cowboy hat. Thelma and Louise triumphantly graced the silver screen, thrusting Brad into the limelight and attracting a deluge of exciting opportunities. The film's release timing proved fortuitous, with its trailers captivating audiences in movie theaters. Brad seized the moment, promptly participating in the film Cool World, boasting a lavish $30 million budget. Unfortunately, this venture floundered at the box office shortly after the success of Thelma and Louise. In Cool World, Brad delivered a captivating performance in one of the leading roles. However, the film endured scathing criticism from critics, and Kim Basinger, who portrayed the female lead, found herself nominated for a Golden Raspberry Award. Negative viewer reviews compounded the film's woes, resulting in an underwhelming average rating of just 4 out of 10 in Western markets. This outcome is often attributed to the divergence from the original concept that occurs when a film capitalizes on the success of its predecessor. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Cool World was initially conceived as a stark contrast to mature movies laden with blood and profanity. However, with Kim Basinger's involvement, the studio demanded alterations to the plot and adjustments to suit a teenage audience. The entire process unfolded hastily, giving rise to the film that now graces the screens. Cool World encountered stiff competition as it premiered alongside Universal Soldier. Brad Pitt faced an uphill battle against the Belgian film, resulting in his own project garnering a meager $14 million at the box office. Brad Pitt completed another film project, The Favor, which unfortunately didn't perform well. Although he had a minor role in the film, he had already committed to it before shooting Thelma and Louise. Brad Pitt's youthful image often draws comparisons to actor Robert Redford. However, it was Redford who came to Pitt's rescue by offering him one of the lead roles in his film, A River Runs Through It. Pitt believes that Redford cast him simply because he made a lasting impression during the audition, which happened to be Pitt's second one. Determined to convince Redford, Pitt recorded another audition tape and sent it to him. There was something in the recording that convinced Redford to cast Pitt. A River Runs Through It had a budget of $12 million, but grossed an impressive $66 million at the box office. The film received numerous Oscar and Golden Globe nominations, solidifying Brad Pitt's status as a rising star, even though he didn't receive any personal accolades. For his next project, the film California, Pitt received a payment of $800,000. His exceptional performance in Thelma and Louise caught the attention of director Dominic Sena, who didn't consider anyone else for the role after seeing Pitt in a Ridley Scott film. California didn't achieve significant success at the box office, similar to the adjacent film True Romance directed by Tony Scott, where Pitt most likely had a supporting role. However, due to California being a smaller project and True Romance garnering high praise from both critics and audiences, Pitt's career progression remained unhindered. Shortly after those films, Interview with the Vampire was released. It was during the production of this film that Brad Pitt's legendary notebook emerged. In this notebook, he listed all the terrible actors with whom he vowed never to work again, regardless of the price. The first name in that notebook was Tom Cruise, as claimed by one of the film's producers. Overall, Pitt wasn't particularly enthusiastic about Interview with the Vampire. He had no prior knowledge of Anne Rice or the book's popularity. A week into filming, he started calling the producer, desperately seeking a way out of the project. Pitt was subjected to constant upside-down hanging to achieve the desired effect of blood rushing to his head, and he had to wear contact lenses to which he was allergic. David Geffen asserts that Pitt agreed to endure these hardships only after being told that the film was based on a best-selling book and had a budget exceeding $50 million. In other words, for those years, it was considered a potential blockbuster. However, Pitt's drama didn't end there. He encountered problems with Tom Cruise on set, and while there are two versions of what caused their conflict, it is confirmed that a conflict did occur. One version attributes the dispute to Pitt's refusal to use deodorant, which didn't sit well with Cruise, resulting in a reduction of Brad's screen time. The second version suggests that Tom Cruise was attempting to help Pitt improve his performance, but Brad was uninterested in receiving Cruise's advice, leading to another diminishment of his screen time. At that time, Tom Cruise was already a superstar, while Brad Pitt was just a relatively unknown actor named Brad by comparison. Cruise's influence on the film was understandable, but Pitt retaliated by including him on his list of undesirable people. Although everyone involved in the production attests that Pitt genuinely struggled during filming, it did not negatively impact the final quality of the movie. Many believe that his unhappy appearance added to the appeal of his character, even though it wasn't initially intended. Notably, Pitt wasn't even featured on the movie posters. Nevertheless, his role in the film had an explosive effect on his career, as it performed exceptionally well at the box office, grossing $224 million. Just 6 months later, Legends of the Fall was released. Pitt had already been cast in the film prior to Interview with the Vampire, being seen as someone barely necessary, unlike Brad Pitt. Initially, the lead roles in Legends of the Fall were intended for Tom Cruise and Sean Connery, but due to production delays over several years, they dropped out. Johnny Depp was then considered, but after reading the script, he declined the offer. It was only then that they cast Pitt, and the film went on to gross $160 million at the box office. According to Pitt, that year he finally had enough money to afford a house with a pool and a state-of-the-art security system. However, cunning thieves managed to bypass the security measures. While they didn't steal much, the incident made Pitt feel wealthy in that moment, as he had never been robbed before. In 1994, Brad Pitt's fee skyrocketed with an additional zero, though it may be hard to believe. However, in 1995, he had to accept a reduction in his initial fee for the film Seven. Nonetheless, it still turned out to be a remarkable payday for him. As for 12 Monkeys, he even agreed to work for a minimal fee. Years later, Brad Pitt would consider Seven as the epitome of perfection among the films he has starred in. Interestingly, during the early stages of development, before the film had a director, Sylvester Stallone and Denzel Washington were considered for the lead roles. Despite Pitt's reduced fee of $4 million from his initial $6 million for Seven, the film went on to gross an impressive $327 million at the box office. Furthermore, Pitt received an additional $3 million in back-end profits after the film's release. Thus, in the end, he earned more than he had initially anticipated. In contrast, for his role in 12 Monkeys, Pitt received a mere $100,000. The lowest earning among the lead actors was Bruce Willis, who appeared in the film practically for free. Meanwhile, Johnny Depp tirelessly sought to play in the film, but Gilliam ultimately chose Pitt. 12 Monkeys was nearly doomed after test screenings received a significantly negative response. However, it was saved by the intervention of the producers and director, who successfully convinced the studio that most of the audience's dissatisfaction stemmed from the film's eccentricity and non-linear narrative. Aside from these aspects, the film was highly satisfactory. The studio agreed not to make any major cuts, and as a result, the film grossed $169 million against its $29 million budget. Brad Pitt's performance earned him a Golden Globe Award and an Academy Award nomination. In his subsequent work on the film Sleepers, Pitt demanded a fee of $10 million. The film also fared well at the box office. However, some claim that at this point, the actor became more focused on securing substantial paychecks and lost interest in thoroughly evaluating scripts. In 1997, he appeared in two high-budget films, The Devil's Own and 7 Years in Tibet. While 7 Years in Tibet received mixed reviews from critics but garnered a positive response from audiences, The Devil's Own faced criticism on all fronts. Unfortunately, both films performed poorly commercially. Pitt's role in the drama 7 Years in Tibet even resulted in a lifetime ban from entering China. After The Devil's Own, another big name appeared on Brad Pitt's blacklist, which took an honorable second place, Harrison Ford. Pitt claims that he signed up for a completely different film than the one that eventually made it to theaters. He had agreed to a movie where his character joyfully eliminated a crowd of people in a drug den to the tune of Irish music. However, when Harrison Ford joined the project, the script underwent multiple changes, revisions, and rewrites throughout the course of filming. Pitt was incensed and attempted to walk away from the film, demanding to be released. Allegedly, the producers supported him. Although they were willing to let him leave, they requested that he leave behind $63 million. At that time, Pitt did not have such a sum, so he was unable to depart. Ford, who didn't perceive any issue with the script alterations, later commented that Brad Pitt was young and often got carried away on set, not paying attention to whom he was arguing with. Consequently, Ford had to explain how mature individuals should communicate. Rumors circulated that Pitt was even involved in minor altercations during filming, but both Ford and Pitt deny any physical confrontations in interviews, asserting that there were disagreements, yet they never crossed the line due to the constant script changes and reshoots. The film's budget ballooned to $90 million, and over 40 minutes were eventually cut from the final version after test screenings. Regrettably, the film only managed to gross $141 million at the box office. Harrison Ford received $20 million for his participation, while Brad Pitt earned $12 million. However, both The Devil's Own and 7 Years in Tibet were deemed box office disappointments, with the latter earning $131 million against its $70 million budget. Instead of these films, Brad Pitt could have taken on a role in Tony Scott's The Fan. However, he insisted on playing Robert De Niro's character and declined to portray a baseball player. Unfortunately, the film also ended up being a failure. For his subsequent work in the film Meet Joe Black, Pitt received a record-breaking fee of $17.5 million, which became his standard for a while. In this film, Pitt was already the leading star and advocated for Anthony Hopkins to be cast alongside him. a decision he later regretted due to constant clashes between Hopkins and the film's director, resulting from Hopkins's refusal to perform multiple takes of the same scene. The film's underperformance at the box office is often attributed to its excessively long runtime. Although it faced criticism during test screenings, the studio opted against making major cuts, and it was released in theaters as a 3-hour film. This is widely regarded as a mistake, and the television version of the film runs for only 2 hours. Interestingly, director Martin Brest distanced himself from the television cut and demanded the removal of his name from the credits. Regardless, after 5 consecutive box office successes, this marked Brad Pitt's 3rd consecutive box office disappointment. Coming in at 4th place is the highly anticipated film Fight Club, where Brad Pitt once again joined forces with renowned director David Fincher. Interestingly, Pitt playfully refers to Fincher as the primary source of tension in the film. Unveiling a behind-the-scenes secret, the actor shared that almost the entire bedroom scene featuring him and Helena Bonham Carter was crafted using cutting-edge computer graphics. However, this technological wizardry did not exempt them from hard work. Pitt and Carter spent over 3 days in the studio, meticulously recording various versions of passionate moans. Despite earning a devoted cult following and receiving critical acclaim, Fight Club fell short of expectations at the box office, grossing $101 million against its $63 million budget. Remarkably, Fight Club soared to become one of Fox Studios' highest-selling DVD releases. Although concrete figures regarding DVD revenue remain elusive, the multitude of re-releases and various disc editions suggest that the film managed to compensate for its underwhelming theatrical performance. Fight Club proved to be a turning point in Brad Pitt's career, as he transitioned away from merely pursuing lucrative paychecks. In a bold move, he immediately followed the film by collaborating with director Guy Ritchie in the crime comedy Snatch for a nominal fee. Rather than negotiating a substantial salary, Pitt expressed his sheer enthusiasm to be part of the project. This decision did not deter him, even though it meant diving straight into physically demanding fight scenes immediately after Fight Club. Initially eyeing the role played by Jason Statham, Pitt's attempt to adopt a convincing British accent led to a change of plans. Nevertheless, he embraced the role of a despised gypsy character, entangled in a tumultuous relationship with Tommy, a young boy. With a budget of $10 million, Snatch triumphantly grossed $84 million at the box office, solidifying it as a respectable success. Following Snatch, Pitt's next venture was The Mexican, in which he once again accepted a reduced salary of $5 million. However, his sights were initially set on a film centered around the iconic character Jason Bourne. Initially signed on to play the lead role, Pitt found himself amidst a sluggish production. At that opportune moment, director Tony Scott presented an enticing offer to join the cast of Spy Game, alongside the legendary Robert Redford. Pitt swiftly changed course, bidding farewell to the producers of the Bourne film. The outcome proved intriguing, with Spy Game amassing a modest $143 million at the box office, while the Bourne franchise flourished as a resounding success. To rebound from the setback of Spy Game, Pitt triumphantly ventured into the critically acclaimed heist film Ocean's 11. Although initially hesitant, he succumbed to the persuasion of his longtime friend George Clooney. Once again, Pitt opted for a reduced fee, but secured the highest percentage of the film's box office earnings among the entire ensemble. Consequently, his earnings reached an impressive sum of approximately $30 million. Embarking on his next ambitious project, Pitt embarked on the grand scale of Troy. However, he could have opted for a different path, potentially starring in Oliver Stone's Alexander. Upon discovering the unique nature of the latter film, Pitt swiftly changed his mind, citing an intense desire to explore other avenues. With an unprecedented budget of $175 million, Troy broke records as one of the most expensive film productions of its time. The actor swiftly sought refuge in the sequel Ocean's 12, and then, due to the impact of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, this film brought about a profound transformation in the actor's career. There was even a moment when Pitt initially walked away from the project because Nicole Kidman was set to star in it, but her departure due to other commitments prompted Pitt to also step away from Mr. and Mrs. Smith. However, as soon as Angelina Jolie came on board, Pitt quickly returned, as he had long desired to collaborate with Jolie. Their collaboration resulted in a romantic relationship famously dubbed Brangelina. The film encountered significant production challenges, and faced substantial struggles during the post-production phase. Typically, such films struggle to find success at the box office, but this one defied expectations. With a budget of $110 million, it grossed an impressive $487 million. However, the most unfortunate aspect was that 80% of the bedroom scene featuring Pitt and Jolie was excluded from the film to cater to a teenage rating, as the content had elements that could potentially be disturbing to children. Following this film, Pitt underwent a personal transformation and declared his commitment to adult roles and more serious films. Both he and Jolie declined any potential sequels, as they wished to move away from working on what they perceived as a simpler film. Pitt's first significant project after that was Babel, in which he agreed to star almost for free, receiving only $1 million. The film managed to stay within its $25 million budget and grossed $135 million at the box office. Subsequently, Pitt ventured into producing, and his first major success as a producer came with the release of the film The Departed in 2006. Initially slated to play a role that eventually went to Matt Damon, Pitt felt that Babel was a better fit for him. However, the next film from his production company, The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford, did not fare well at the box office, despite Pitt's starring role, earning only $1 million against a $30 million budget, with a meager collection of $15 million. Pitt acknowledged that they were aware the film wouldn't achieve mainstream success, so the underwhelming performance did not come as a surprise. Nevertheless, Pitt went on to experience a string of 4 consecutive box office successes following Jesse James. He'd become an actor whose involvement guaranteed financial viability for a film. One of these films, initially intended to feature Tom Cruise, told the story of Benjamin Button. Although Steven Spielberg initially invited Cruise, the project encountered production difficulties and was shelved until it was later revived by Fincher, who brought Pitt on board. The streak was interrupted by The Tree of Life, directed by Terrence Malick. Once again, the film's success came as more of a surprise, and Pitt participated with the promise of eventual payment. Interestingly, Angelina Jolie, at that time, aspired to become a talented director and was in search of a significant project to fulfill her ambition. They had plans for an African action film centered around hunting poachers, with Pitt cast in the lead role as per the script. It was believed that his strong personality was crucial in bringing the character to life on screen. The film's plot revolved around Pitt's character, dedicated to protecting the African continent from ivory poachers, utilizing his trusted rifle. It promised intrigue and a powerful, dramatic storyline accompanied by intense performances. While the film was on the verge of production, Pitt's busy schedule prevented its realization. At that point, many believed Pitt would face consequences for his actions, but Jolie appeared to have forgiven him, at least temporarily. Pitt shifted his focus more towards producing, with almost all the films he appeared in being developed by his own production company. Some of these films, like Ocean's 11 or The Man Who Changed Everything, had modest box office performances, while others, such as 12 Years a Slave, achieved significant success and garnered prestigious accolades like the Oscars. The trajectory of Brad Pitt's career took him through notable films like World War Z, Fury, and The Big Short, which achieved success. However, his collaboration with Angelina Jolie in the film By the Sea proved to be a failure at the box office, leading to their divorce and Pitt's battle with alcoholism. While this struggle had always been present, it became more apparent after their separation. Approaching his 50s, Pitt faced a string of disappointments. Allied suffered a setback in theaters, Ad Astra had underwhelming streaming numbers, and War Machine failed to make a significant impact. The only glimmer of light came from his minor role as an invisible man in Deadpool 2. It seemed as though Pitt's career was approaching its end, with a potential shift towards streaming platforms and niche projects. However, Quentin Tarantino came to Pitt's rescue with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino had spent years developing the script, initially envisioning it as a book. When he decided to turn it into a screenplay, the role that eventually went to Pitt underwent changes, causing the actor to initially decline. Rumors circulated that Tom Cruise was approached for the part, but also turned it down. Tarantino rewrote the script, transforming the character into a stuntman. He returned to Pitt, who accepted this time. Pitt's performance in the film earned him his first Academy Award at the age of 56. Previously, as a producer, Pitt had received an award in 2014 for 12 Years a Slave. Without the significant failure of By the Sea, Pitt's career could have been viewed as thriving. However, his decision to star in the film Babylon twice resulted in the second attempt becoming one of the biggest flops of 2022. Nonetheless, no apparent consequences have emerged so far. Presently, Pitt is busy working on the comedy action film Wolf alongside his friend George Clooney. He also has several other projects in the pipeline, signaling a potential turnaround for his production company, Plan B, after a series of disappointments. Pitt contemplated selling the company, but instead secured a $300 million investment from a French media giant. Talks are now circulating about his ambitious plans for future conquests. Overall, Brad Pitt exemplifies resilience in the face of adversity. While he is currently involved in legal battles with Angelina Jolie, rumors circulating about his behavior, including alcoholism, assault allegations, and heated arguments, haven't tainted his public image significantly. Attempts to paint Pitt as a villainous figure have been unsuccessful. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between, and maybe he should have stayed with Jennifer Aniston.